Hey guys, it's been some time since I have been got live, not for the podcast, but late at night just to discuss a couple of topics that I think could be relevant. So without further ado, I'll just share my screen so you can see what I'm doing here. I want to talk about a couple of topics, and these topics I tend to outsource them to my content GPT. So just so you know what I'm doing, I always have ChatGPT's app open. Sometimes I have Claude. Claude's app is a bit buggy, so I tend to not have it on my computer. I prefer using it on a browser. And I have this content GPT. Any idea that I feed it, it spits back a post. It is prompted in a specific way, right? These posts may end up on LinkedIn, they may end up on my newsletter, they may end up on Substack notes, for example. Some of them on X, and I have written down some of them here that I think are worth discussing today. I have 25 precisely. I'll try to probably pick 10, and yeah, I think these ideas are worth discussing. First one is comparing AI with job displacement, AI's job displacement and COVID, right? So, what will be the difference? Well, COVID was tragic. It killed people, literally. Let's start with this premise. And that had an economic impact as well. People caring about them, huge investments in healthcare, but also froze the economy, right? The physical economy. And people have gone remote now. They think they're okay, but what's coming is worse. It's the AI job displacement massacre. So people keep claiming that AIs won't replace creative people. AI is creative. AI is just the people that are using it will thrive, and the people that won't will not thrive. No, people that are using AI will be replaced too. Because keep in mind that AIs can use AIs too, right? AIs can reproduce themselves way quicker. They learn quicker. A human will probably improve their brain by 1.2x per year, while an AI is 2xing its brain on a daily basis. So it'll be quite brutal. I mean, it doesn't mean that humans don't have any modes. Is that we're not quite sure of what our human modes might be, and it will be a bit more subtle. The job displacement, COVID, by the way, was just like a freeze of the economy. This is permanent. That's like the main difference here. But AI job displacement will be more subtle, right? At first, we won't really see it. Some people will start to feel it's like, oh, this CEO let go of my position, and oh, oddly enough, they're not hiring anyone else. Um, well, the CEO won't tell you, but they're outsourcing to machine, literally. So, and then it's like, oh, I have a harder time finding a job. It's like taking me weeks now to find a job. It's taking me months now to find a job if I'm lucky, and if I land a job, it's luck. It's a very odd circumstance, and most probably will be a physical job that will be protected for a while. Why? Because there's no robots. So your body is still a moat, right? And I work in that knowledge field, so I'm not using my body to produce money, and will never do. But never say never, right? Who know where that could lead me, and what kind of karma I could get back from making these videos. So the thing is, yes, and bots will catch up probably in 7 to 10 years from now, like physical bots, right? Elon's building some of these, and I think that yeah, this will be brutal. The couple of people that will survive that, they will have money, of course, they will have power and influence, right? Sure, trust it can be a mode. That's why I'm bullish on podcasts right now. I'm talking to a bunch of people, making cool connections, right? But this is different. This will be painful for most, and it's scary to think about the consequences of people without jobs. Like, will the government step in? I mean, the U.S. government is really much in debt, right? And we can't keep on pushing or kicking the can down the road. So yeah, something will need to happen quick. Who will make that happen? Probably government, sure, but in partnerships with probably OpenAI and these AI companies. So it will be drastically different than COVID, and it will be lasting. And it will be like a python choke, just like sucking the air out of you slowly but surely. You being like the economy, people that work hard but can't seem to improve fast enough for that thing that is growing super fast. So I think that yeah, it will be drastically different. It will be something that we need to absolutely talk about right now, but it will be something that yeah could be interesting, the outcome, like how people adapt to that new wave. COVID was brutal for sure. It was really brutal, especially the social isolation and all that. AI, the AI revolution won't have that, and these AIs will be very useful for us, right? Like even people that don't have cash, quote unquote, would have an AI that, if we're lucky, would make them happy. One, and for two, maybe it could fetch them more opportunities, aka help them cash in the government checks or something. It's wild. By the way, how do I educate myself on these topics and try to think a bit more? The podcast has not satisfied that instinct. Like most CEOs and founders that I talk to on my podcast about that topic are pretty clueless. Um, they're trying to make their head around that topic, but they always repeat the same thing, right? Humans have emotions, and humans will never be replaced. That's pretty much the dumbest thing that I constantly hear. Like humans will never be replaced. That's complete farce, you know. Because AI is humans, is a human brain, and I think we're gonna merge with AI. That's probably what's gonna save us, but for sure, human can have EQ, can have quote unquote empathy. They just haven't tried it enough, right? Um, and yeah, I think generally people, what I'm observing, I'm not like talking shit on people, but they're like the first step is to be like technology savvy, right? And try these technologies. They are available, for God's sake. Why not use them? Why not give them a try? Yesterday, Grok was released, right? And I'll be the first to test it, even if I don't like Elon nowadays. And guess what? It's pretty fun. It's pretty low IQ slash Elon-ish, right? Elon's not too smart nowadays, but um, it's still impressive and useful. Um, so yeah, humans will go away from a job perspective, right? Not saying extermination will ensue. That's like a low probability one, but job displacement will be a huge one. And what's retaining the floodgate is ego and humans not adopting these AI tools. Oddly enough, right? That's slowing down the adoption. But that, I mean, rich people will just like take advantage of that. That's pretty easy one. And regulation, which is also related to ego. Regulation is, yeah, it's like, oh, quote unquote powerful people, right? Like power suckers in politics, you know them, you know, like politicians, how they are. They'll create laws and not necessarily to protect the people, but to protect themselves and to have a nice paycheck to not make themselves irrelevant, right? That could be another interesting topic for today. Member in a mastermind talked about The Sovereign State by Balaji, the book. A long time I haven't read it, but I'm going to read it again. It's a good book, but like how governments are going to pan out, right? Our government's going to scale. Our country's still going to be a thing in 15, 20 years from now. I think AGI is going to hit really fast. Why? Because there's so many brains, but there are weird things like that, countries and governments that are only going to explode or implode in 15 to 20 years from now, in my opinion, because these things thrive on falsehoods and power games and bullshit, right? And the opposite of science. While AGI thrives on science and the truth and acceleration and progress and brain power, right? So I think, yeah, countries will not be a thing or will start falling apart in probably, yes, 15, 20, 25 years from now, depending on how advanced or not advanced the country. Which one will fall in first? The most advanced one, I would guess, because AGI, and the least advanced one because there would be even more power struggles, right? But that's a topic I'm not super well versed in. So I'm just gonna go to the second one that I have on my list here, and I'll try to make this quick because I don't want to stay awake forever here. But yeah, CEOs in denial about AI. I think I mentioned that. Yeah, the future hyper success story as a startup. I think you've heard that before, but it's just a couple of humans, probably like two co-founders in a startup with AI, with resources, so funded, most of them, just advancing at light speed without employees. They have AI agents, right? So AI AI agents, and they're advancing at light speed. You can picture Y Combinator startup for sure. I think I've talked about that in various other videos. So I'm not gonna spend too much time on that one, but it's definitely not going to be a bloated company. It's definitely not going to be. Today I talked with a CEO with 8,000 employees. I mean, and the guy's a legend. His company too, by the way, it's a software company, enterprise software, but 8,000 employees. Huh? How long is that going to scale? I'm pretty sure, like, yeah, it's a moat still, and with a good culture, with a bunch of A players, it's a major moat. But I think just a couple of humans that move at the speed of light, right? Not full of 9 to 5ers going back home and watching Netflix, right? Like, even if you're an A plus player in a company, that's what you're doing. You're not always working. Um, you're not like, you're a high performer, but you're not like elite level performer like a YC founder, for example. And yeah, I think that's what we're gonna see, which brings a question: for how long will VCs have a moat? Like I don't necessarily picture these companies as overfunded. Maybe like a little check from Y Combinator or something, but maybe a pre-seed. But at some point, I think they're going to be profitable pretty quick with a bunch of AI agents. I think the moat is still very intellectual and the grind, and how long you can grind, right? So I think that's what we're going to see pretty soon. The battle of brains, which is the battle of our times, which is the AI age, what we're in right now, is pretty incredible. I'm not sure if you've been watching Sam Altman like deploying features right after Claude deploy a feature, or right after DeepSeek has thrown a tantrum. Like the DeepSeek thing. It's pretty amazing. It's pretty fascinating. And then there's Elon and Grok in the play. I'm pretty sure Elon's gonna go all in into Grok pretty soon. That would be his most rational move. Like, I mean, compared to Grok, Tesla is a bullshit company for sure, and so is SpaceX, by the way. SpaceX is cool, right, and Starlink and all of that, but compared to AI and AGI, AI and AGI is the only thing that matters right now. It's literally creating brains, right? And how do we create innovation? How do we create value in this society? It's with our brains, right? So nothing else matter other than AI and AGI. And I've created various posts as of late about just stop everything that you're doing and go into AI. I think that's a very fair assumption, whatever your industry, right? Um, I asked that same CEO today if he should have his LLM. I think that would be a major moat. But yeah, he's a CEO, he's not a founder as well. So like less power, right? Still has a board of old schmucks he needs to answer to. So I think yeah, people should if they can, right? If they're free from a time perspective, I think they should go all in AI. They don't need to go with the classic VC model, raise capital, and go knock at YC's door necessarily. But what I'm doing specifically, I'm overusing these tools, I'm connecting them together, and I'm offering it as a service in the sales field, right? I would recommend that with other clients, and I'm creating tons of content. And the same stuff that I'm reading and consuming, that's what I'm writing about. That's a good way to get into AI. So AI media, right? Media has grown to a substantial size, and the barriers to entry are quite low. I'm meaning like a YouTube channel and AdSense paying you on a monthly basis, a free Substack, for example. So you're nurturing an audience, and power is an AI mode, right? Like, sure, an AI could get shitload of subscribers probably faster than I do, but once people find out that it's an AI, right? Like, there's still that human trust mode factor. So I'm building an audience while I'm making money, while I'm gaining influence, and I'm reading and learning about AI, meaning that I can launch AI companies. SaaS model most likely, and learn about the full trade while I'm getting paid, right? So I think that's a pretty scalable model to get into AI. The next one here, not gonna talk too much about that. I think that's quite old. The human AI pin flop, which was like an AI device. They tried to reproduce like the Apple way, 2x Apple employees, but it fell drastically. And my lesson for that, like they raised 240 million, by the way. Um, I wouldn't castigate innovation in these companies, but yeah, I would never go into hardware again. That was my first company, and it's hella complicated. So just one quick lesson on that one. Yeah, AI integration as a service is not too bad of an idea if you're starting into this. If you're pretty broad, I would highly recommend that you specialize in one field, like AI sales, AI lead gen, AI closing. Um, but yeah, at first, if you're like a total noob to that, maybe just like AI as a service, right? Like one meeting per week, one AI system per week, 250 bucks a week. That's 1K per month, right? And you just help these old boomers understand AI and integrate it with their business. That is a big value piece, and I think that's an easy launch for if you want to get into AI. This one's interesting. So I'll mix like AI stuff and philosophy and psychology. Well, not philosophy so much. My philosophy on the philosophy people, philosophian. I forgot even how you call these people philosopher. Is that yeah? They are speculating. They're master speculators, just like economists, right? And they should get AI technology to reason better and do science and use technologies to make valid conclusions, aka scan the brain, and so forth. More on that later. The psychology piece here is the CEO who projected the world he wanted, not the reality. So I made a story about that. I have a story GPT that I read every night. That I have a business story one that I use for content, but I have a basic one here for getting me to sleep and just intrigue my brain and learn at the same time, right? Because I prompted my story GPT to be factual. And this story here I created for the CEO that projected the world that he wanted, not the reality. The story wasn't that good, but the lesson here is I think a bunch of us, and surely Steve Jobs was that way, Elon's that way. We have this force field around us. We have our own philosophies and we try to shape the world how we think it should be, right? But I think that has a major backlash. First, you got to combine a bunch of other autistic skill to be really successful at blending the world around you. Obviously need to sacrifice a lot on the personal space as well, like being a megalomaniac and stuff like that. I'm some of that, but it's controlled because I think it could like destroy myself and not scale. The point here is that this can backfire big time when you're a product market fit scientist like myself that's constantly making tests to the market, and I'm imposing my shit on the market, and I'm constantly getting the response back from the market, or no response, which is worse, right? Like crickets, that this is not what they want. At some point, you need to listen to the market and bring come down your horses, right? And bring your ego down and really focus on what works. Listen to the market, listen to what it wants. A good example is my podcast, right? My podcast lead gen service, which is amazing. The system works amazing. It's the best ever in lead gen. It's the most scalable. It's the most simple. It checks pretty much all the boxes. Just that people are fucking confused by why they should start a podcast to make sales. Doesn't make sense. Like, I don't have a time for podcasts. I'm not a podcaster. But in reality, what I should sell is just the leads. I shouldn't even talk about the podcast. It's like, hey, you're gonna generate 30 plus leads per month. You're gonna close 10% of that if you're B2B and if you check all my ICP box, right? And the 30 leads is guaranteed. That's what I should focus on. And the rest, it's not super important. And I found that out through another GPT of mine. It's called $100 million offer. If you know Alex Hormozy, and I just fed it a bunch of data about my business and what I want to accomplish this year. And yeah, basically it told me like, hey, cut the fluff GPT way. Like GPT will use a lot the fluff word, but yeah, stop overcomplicating shit and talking about tech stacks on calls and so forth. Just focus on what you can bring them. And I've been too nice as of late. I've been even lazy on the closing side of things, like not following up, being like, hey, yeah, just email me back when you're ready or something like that. And I could offer that. I could afford that, right? To just wait on people because I have shitloads of clients. But what agencies don't tell you is that in January and February, it's like very low months. And I just got tired of that. Usually March is a very epic month, and it is so far. And yeah, I started pitching people. I started being like, "Hey, I have this limited program, and if you catch me at the right time, which is the time I have less clients, for example, then you can get this major promo." And guess what? It worked. So the moral of the story here is have a brain sparing partner, because having an ego is somewhat good in the business world. It will make you money, but it can also shoot you in the foot big time. You're like so stubborn, right? It's like my word, the highway, but in reality, it should be brainstorm with a GPT, brainstorm with humans, feed that GPT data, and ask GPT what you should improve. And that's another easy one. When I have podcast calls, I love feeding that to GPT, right? To make sense out of these podcasts. And hey, GPT, how can I improve my interviewing style? And same for sales calls. Hey, GPT, how can I improve my sales style? And yeah, you can use fancy read.ai apps, but the UX is pretty bad. What I found is just like exporting the transcript of YouTube videos, and there's apps for that. Maybe I can show you this. So I have a Chrome extension here. It's called YouTube Summary with ChatGPT. And for example, I'll go on my channel, and let's say here live, and I'll take you need to wait like probably like 2 or 3 days. But let's say I'll take a good podcast that I have. Let's say this one here. GPT can give me like the full summary, right? The full chat transcript. So let's see. There it is. Summarize video. Wait, maybe that one is not recent enough, so I'll just pick a random one. 3 days ago. And you feed that full transcript to GPT. So here you can just copy the full thing. You open a ChatGPT window, and you feed it how could I improve my podcasting style and question here. And then I feed it the full transcript, right? Yeah, and by the way, I should use the 4.5. I'm not sure if you've seen ChatGPT 4, but yeah, 4.5 is better. So make the intro more engaging, right? Shortening it. It was quite short, but not enough to GPT's days. And guess what? It's right. Be more conversational and curious. Yeah, checklist style Q&A. Yeah, respond to what they said before, then moving on to the next one. That's very good advice, right? That's advice I tell my podcast clients pretty much all the time. Reframe questions for more impact. So, Karen, why did you start advising startup after that? What was the pivot? Better. You went from high stakes trading to startup mentorship. What drove that shift? Was it curiosity, burnout, something else? So my human brain is fallible, right? Like sometimes I lose track, sometimes I'm tired. I've woken up like early in the last couple of days, and yeah, my last interviews, I'm not super proud of them. But guess what? There's days like that. And that's being human, right? It's imperfection, while being an AI is perfection, ultimately. Um, okay, use more follow-ups and reaction. So I made more money than I thought a kid from Queens could ever imagine, then lost more money than I thought I could ever lose. Right. Gateway partners. Instead of moving on, dig into that emotional moment. That's a crazy swing. How did you handle that? Did you ever think about quitting? So yeah, the challenge as a human listening to another human talk is to write down notes of like spectacular moments like this one. And GPT keeps on like telling me shit to improve. I feel like a bad podcaster now. Thanks, GPT. Um, Yeah, writing down these hints of what they said that was right, and also keep on with the conversation, right? And ideally, it would be their last phrase, their last sentence that I would come up with a follow up question. So that is a challenging approach. And by the way, that is epic shit right there. Like GPT is good. There is a science to being a great interviewer, and I'm probably not the 8.5 that I think I am. Summarize the key takeaways more. So at the end of the interview, wrap up with the most valuable takeaways. That's somewhat good. The outro is a bit too standard. Instead of just asking where people can find him, connect it to value for the audience. If you're a founder looking for mentorship, Gilder might be your next move. Yeah, that'd be great. Like pitch them, right? And I could very much see using that for closing as a service because I'm selling closing. So epic advice here. GPT is always delivering. So okay, the ninth point here: frustration of no pipeline. So I've been talking about that in my newsletter as of late, and I think yeah, people are getting quite pissed at not closing. A couple of tips for that: once you have leads, right? Because I always tell my CEOs and my founders, like, once you have leads, you just enter the jungle. The real fight is like about closing these leads, right? That's the real competition. So, because leads via podcast, yes, sure, bunch of them, and they will fit your ICP, and they might even have signals that they're thinking of buying from you. Um, Now, closing them is hard. It will require follow-ups. I use Calendly for follow-ups because that deliverability and open rate is so high. So little hack for you here: after my podcast, right, or it could be after your sales call. What I like doing nowadays is sending a strategy plan built with AI. So it's like my data, my product. Then I feed it my prospects' data and a conversation that we had together on Zoom. And I'm like spit out a quote unquote quote, quote unquote quote to them, which is an email. Obviously, don't send a quote nowadays. You send a very clear email with a very personalized value prop. The AI will do all of that for you. Maybe review it a couple of times. I use Claude for that, Opus 3.7, and yeah, you will your win rate, your close rate will increase by at least 10% just doing that. Plus it will be speedy, right? You won't spend one fucking hour on sending a quote. So that is the second tip here. Third tip, I would say, like, use content a lot. I'm pretty obsessed about sending content pieces, and it's not just so that people can consume them, but you will just be smarter. And that means that not only you'll deliver more as a consultant, right, as an agency, as a someone with a product, but you will also be a better salesperson because, not sure about you, but I start delivering even before uh, they hire me. I want them to get a taste of what it feels like to work with me, my energy levels, my IQ, and some of my EQ, which I'm working on. So yeah, that would be a third tip, and you would close way more doing these three things here. Okay, so transforming anger into empathy. One thing that I understood as of late is that top predator CEOs are not empathetic um, because they're weak, you know, or because they're woke. Um, Somewhat synonyms, right? They do it because they're top predators. They just understood that to get the upper hand, they need to have empathy, which is not real empathy, right? But it certainly is my form of capitalistic empathy, and to thrive in this market and to later reinvest these resources in good thing. What I mean by that is that you're being empathetic to win. You're it's not pity, but it's like, hey, I instead of like someone angry, like having the upper hand on you and like you feeling defensive and, oh shit, they're attacking me, right? I need to attack back. No, it's just like, okay, I understand you're having a bad day. I understand that you have less emotional control. Let me take control over the situation and get us both a better outcome, right? And in that case, it's just like, oh, I see that what's really happening is that they don't have emotional control, and you do, and you're just gonna try to solve this situation for everyone without a fight, right? And maximizing the end outcome. That's the empathy impact, the empathy insight that I had talking to CEOs and GPTs as of late. So I know that's not real empathy. Maybe it can turn into one. Maybe the source of empathy doesn't matter, but at least it's gonna be what I'm gonna adopting, and the end outcome of that is gonna be everyone's gonna be more happy instead of arrogant Charles that's gonna retort back and is gonna want to fight, right? Which is not me, but you peel down like two, three layers out of me, and that's what you get. Most humans they just have one layer or max two. I have probably like yeah, 2 to 3 layers before I start to get pissed and quote unquote emotional, right? And one should not have like two, three, four, 5 layers. They should have infinite patience. That is the goal. Um, okay, so should startup founders keep on going no matter what? That one's not that interesting, but I see some people returning investor funds. The rationale here is like try for a while, set a deadline. If it's still not working, then yes, maybe try to return investor funds. Yeah, first, I wouldn't raise funds nowadays. That's like a different question altogether. But yeah, at some point, I think I would do that, especially if I tried my all. And yeah, scientifically, and investors are proving of my efforts. And yeah, it's just like not working. That's probably what I would do. I'm an intense guy, but I also am rational, right? So yeah, it's a very tough question because you never know. Markets tend to change and so forth, or at least sell it, right? Like instead of returning the money. But yeah, it's. I think. I think yeah, a bunch of people are burning investor cash and then it totally fails, and then they're left out with nothing, and that's way worse than just like returning cash while it's time. But not an expert with that, so I'm just gonna move on to the next one. Yeah, most rep can sells cannot sell. I would convert most SDRs and AEs into podcasters. That's what I would do. It's incredibly hard to be like a successful SDR and AE. The best of us burn out, right? Doing what we do. So instead, why not have your AEs and SDRs start a pod? That's what I see the most innovative companies do nowadays. It's a win-win-win all over the place. It's more leads. It's more closed leads, right? Like higher win rate, more content, less turnover, right? It's giving your employees something that they can use and scale on that is AI proof, which is normal. So why not do that? These next ones, I just felt fed it to my GPT. I tend to feed it polls that I like, and some of them are totally yeah, rubbish, like 1 million in 30 days pipeline. You know, they're very much exaggerated, but I like the structure of that post. I fed it to GPT. Same for that one here. It's a startup failure lesson. You can go check out my newsletter if you want to read that one. Okay, consultants first to be replaced. Yeah, that was a good question. I'm the AI consultant, quote unquote, that's always talking shit about people being replaced. Are we the first to be replaced? It's a good question. The obvious response to that, and the obvious bias response to that is no, because we're like frontline on AI. We're the first to learn about them, deploy these technologies, piece them together, but we're very much replaceable, which is why I always talk about humans being replaceable. Like I myself know that I'm replaceable if I don't evolve. The good news is that I constantly evolve. I'm a freak. I'm really good at change. That's probably my number one strength, adaptability. So, yeah, but yeah, it's worth asking, right? Like the point here is that you need a GPT to keep you in check with your bias. So I tend to use True GPT. I ask it a bunch of questions, and it tells me statistically what is right and what is wrong, right? So I like keeping myself in check, and I'm not the best of that. I seek to very much do it on a daily basis and call myself on my own shit because, like all humans, I'm full of it, right? Full of shit and full of heart, full of brain. full of imperfections. So yeah, it's very useful when you're using AGPT to call yourself out vs a coach, an expensive coach that won't even call you out, right? They don't want to call you out too much because they're scared to offend you, that you'll cut them off. It's a paycheck bias. All humans suffer from the paycheck bias. If that goes against you winning money, you will probably not talk about it or have an opposed opinion about it, right? Only the crazy ones have opposing opinions, and the smartest ones, right? Like Steve Jobs was a walking contradiction. I won't say Elon because I don't think he's the best of us anymore. Neither was Steve Jobs. I was pretty much of a an asshole, but yeah, I guess we all have a purpose in society. I want to talk about this here. I think that's quite genius. This company of mine, well, it's genius for me because it's my ikigai to revolutionize education and start young. I've worked with a lot of old brains as of late, and most of them they don't listen to me. They're too egotistic, right? And they're too far beyond the point of recuperation, and some of them will be replaced by AIs. You know, they're not agile enough. They won't change quick enough, and I've discovered the opposite in young brains. They do exactly what I say, and they get shitloads of results, leads. They listen to my closing system. They're closing as well. They're super lean. They're super agile. They have nothing to lose, right? They have all the time. So I want to reshape young brains from an early age to make money with AI. It's called couni.com. I had a hard time with education myself, and I would like to offer my kids a different type of life than I had. I had a great life, by the way, but the education system was never nice. You know, I had fun when I was making fun of the teacher, but other than that, like I was outside of the class alone, punished, probably like 50% of the time. Imagine what that does to the brain, right? Being told like half of the time that what you're doing is wrong. And that is pretty scarring. And yeah, that I tend to think of myself as a human that's pretty sane and healed, but just thinking statistically about that and what that does is like, huh, yeah, maybe I still have some shit to fix. Anyway, so this is my redemption. This is my vengeance. I'm starting couni.com, and I will teach kids, yeah, how to think in terms of AI and be AI aligned. We will have a bunch of CEOs and founders to teach them on a weekly basis, the daily basis, actually, 50-ish new CEOs on a weekly basis. Each will give a different type of class, and it will be interactive, and there will be AIs that will be able to ask their AIs questions in real time, right? Just like I'm doing on my podcast, by the way. The tuition will be 50 to 100K per year. And I'm starting a podcast with that. I had a friend on my pod that gave me an amazing idea. Tim, shout out to Tim here, and Tim Tonella. And he gave me the idea to start a podcast about it, interviewing a CEO and a founder, which is my ICP, right? With their kids. And we're going to talk with the kid about launching a business. And I think that's amazing. First, I'm really much interested. I'm fascinated by kids, these young brains, these unfiltered brains that we're molding in such a wrong fucking shape, you know. Do as you're told, follow the rules, stay in line, you know, compete on stupid fucking games like getting the best score in the class, you know. I mean, get the best score, but not the on math, you know, like math is pretty fucking useless. Other than if you go like really deep, AGI can do math for sure. So anyway, I'll teach them meditation. I'll teach them how to build relationships. Of course, they'll do a shitload of exercise. We'll do high intensity training together on Zoom. Everything will be on Zoom. And I think this funnel is amazing. Obviously, it's tons of data because not all kids are like super smart. I do think that they all have potential. I do think they should all have a project. Parents will need to invest in their tech stack as well to start a business, right? They will all have a podcast. They will all interview CEOs and founders and the best humans on this planet Earth. And I think I'm really excited about that. I haven't been excited by a project in that long because my first company was Nootropic 10 years ago, and That was my moonshot back then, revolutionizing the brain and feeding the brain good stuff to think better. I still think in the human intelligent mode, by the way. It's a bit more uncertain than it was back then, although I've been obsessed with AI in the past 10 years as well. It's not new for me. The godfather of AI is from Montreal, Joshua Bengio. I was sending him emails 10 years ago, reading bricks about AIs while I was running these businesses. And yeah, the nootropic business failed and sort of lost my moonshot. Right after that was like agencies and consulting, maybe a SaaS there, maybe a call center, different business models, but it didn't really have the flame. It was just like money shit, right? So I'm quite excited about that one. I think it will lead to humongous insights. There's more genius to that in that company. The thing is, there's a lot of dumb schools out there nowadays that are not business oriented, not entrepreneurship oriented. Guess what? Entrepreneurship is pretty much the only thing that will survive the AI age. If you're not an entrepreneur in 10 years from now, you'll be on UBI paychecks. And yeah, so I think I have a shot first, but also it's a funnel for me to work with their parents, which are mavericks, right? So the emails that I'm sending and the type of parents that will invest in their kids, they will be mavericks. Nowadays, I'm trying to work with mavericks in my business, but there's so much competition, there's so much noise that I can't really get like the $100 million CEO's attention. Um, so if I can do that, if I can work with their kids and then I can work with their parents in their business, right, and win their trust because they're handing me their kids at the end of the day, that will be like humongous for me, right? So I'm very bullish on that business. I have tons of thesis, right? Every time I'm starting a business, and obviously Tiki Guy, it's my passion. Um, but I have like hundreds of check boxes that I'm checking, and the more I check, the more fun that business is, the more motivated I am by that business, and a very big check box that I'm gonna have kids soon too, and I want the school to be ready for their brain because at first, sure, it's gonna be uncertain the school and it's gonna be a bit chaotic, but once they're born and once they're smart, once they have the capability to deploy their energy and their value and get paid, then I want my system to be fully ready for them. I still think I have something quite relevant for kids. My brain is very similar to kids. It's unhinged. It is very libertarian. It is very innocent as well. It's very creative. Um, Obviously, I have more neurons solidified in this brain, but I think children are very capable of developing tons of neurons very quick as well. It's just that we teach them all that bullshit for 18 years of their lives, and they arrive in the market. They're like, "What the fuck is that? How am I supposed to thrive in this?" The unlucky ones will get a 9 to 5. The very, very, very lucky ones will start a business, and the super lucky ones will have a thriving business. And they need to learn all of that on the fly, right? Yeah, it's crazy that thing of launching humans in the market like that, giving them bullshit internship and so forth, and having them court firms. Oh, look at me with a fancy suit and a glass of wine. Hire me, please, sir. Why not start at 7? Why not? And by the way, they can have fun. It's not like if it will be a prison. Business is really fun. It's just how you shape the brain, right? You can get to learn to you can learn to love anything in this life. So I'm really passionate about this one, and I'm gonna finish that up soon because it's been almost an hour. But I like these long feeds and just to discuss out there and to throw my shit on the wall here and see what sticks. That's a very ugly expression, by the way, if you picture it on my white walls. AI, CloseGPT, and business story GPT. So CloseGPT, I talked about that. It's just like a prompted AI that knows about your business. You feed it data, right, with your companies, and once you actually feed it data and ask it to return a specific answer based on your conversation, can close the prospect with an email. It will write it for you, and you have to send it. It's super simple. Business story, I also talked about it. It's like StoryGPT. It's like a great story. It could exist, it could not exist, fiction or non-fiction. The point is that humans, they digest informations in stories. Stories is equal to emotion. It's equal to space time and a lesson. It's equal to up and down, right? It's equal to uncertainty and making it. There's always a moral. There's always a lesson there. So I love using business story GPT to write business stories and have a moral at the end. For example, launch podcast, right? John was struggling with leads before he talked to his friend that had a podcast, right? Etc. AI job apocalypse. Yeah, I talked about that. Full of shit algorithm. Oh, that's pretty good. Yeah, I have a GPT that calls my shit out, but I love feeding it profiles of people, especially on LinkedIn. Not necessarily because I love hating on others, but I love just having its take on what is bullshit in people. I don't make a specific judgment about that people, but let's say that I feed that GPT like 10, 100 profiles, and then I'm starting to see like bullshit correlation, then I can make better decisions as a human, as per what to buy, as per what to sell. It just makes me smarter. Like I said, we're all full of shit, right? Like as humans, we're so biased. What we complain about is mostly like what we're not good at. So we're just like exposing ourselves constantly. But I think it's great just to have data about people and to have an algorithm, right? And people tricksters are getting better and better at that. And you'll find a lot of tricksters at the top of the food chain because when you lie at scale, you learn to lie to yourself as well, to lie to your heart and soul and values. And after time, you don't even realize what is truth, what is false, what is right, what is wrong. We can see that at the top echelon in the U.S. administration right now, right? Sure, they're authentic, but they're authentic. But does that even fucking mean they're authentic about their bullshit? They're authentic about screaming stuff in the microphone that is false. That doesn't make it ethical, valuable, and true, right? So yeah, sure. I'm all about like not having necessarily filters, but I'm more about improving your brain, improving yourself, improving what you have to say, and keeping yourself in check. Because AGI won't have much pity for that, depending on what version you talk about. But AGI is gonna expose shit pretty quickly, and it's gonna have a very precise scientific judgment on people. This guy's full of shit. This guy has taken a lot of value from humanity. Without this guy, we could have gone there. AI will be able to predict the future with a very precise accuracy. And by then, we're going to be out of concepts like time, present, future, and past. I'm going to spare you the details of that, but trust me that people are going to be exposed. People are, I wouldn't say are going to pay because punishment might not even be in our systems in the future, in the very far future, but facts are going to be checked, you know. Right now, we live in a very sensible age, disinformation age where anyone can say anything, right? So it's cool that you're being able to say what you want without being limited. That's great, right? We don't want to be restrained on what we say, but we also want to learn what is right and what is wrong. I think that's an important point we're missing nowadays. So yeah, it's important to go for the truth. I think AGI will reward the truth. I think AGI will reward people that have helped humanity with some value coin, right? So do good. Uh, Broadly speaking, and right now the me saying like do good is like some me that wants to sound like an angel or something. That is my bias, you know, when I dig about it. More on that later. Lead gen and AI outreach. So I talked about CloseGPT. I'm just gonna finish off with this, you know, like pitching vs playing it safe. I have a strong opinion on that as well. Sometimes you can allow yourself to play it safe, right? If you're privileged, if you're lucky, or if you've worked hard before. But even then, you need to pitch. You need to get better. Stop being like comfortable and not pitching and being afraid that people will think that you're a bad human being and that your reputation is actually a thing. It's not, right? Humans constantly improves the best of us. So like if you judge me like 2 years ago, that's a mental construct in your head that Charles today is much different, right? Um, so yeah, when you're talking or thinking about Mavericks, you're judging them. It's a very foul error. Um, People at the top, very smart people, they constantly evolve. For example, Sam Beckman-Fried, a lot of people hate on that guy. Can guarantee you that Sam Beckman-Fried will be a very different person in once he gets out of prison. Who knows when, but I think yeah, prisoning this guy is a big error. He could have added lots of value for humanity. That guy, although he has a lot of flaws, which I talked extensively in other articles. But the point is, you need to pitch. You need to go out there to learn, right? To get feedback because you don't get good if you're not getting data out of the current market. And yeah, playing it safe is just not a good decision, especially in the age of AI. It's an age of speed. Everything's accelerating, so that includes like how hard you work, how long you work, how smart you work, and it's not by playing it safe, and convincing yourself that you're this superior being and people will come to you magically. That's like egotistic and not aligned with the market. Only a trust fund kid can allow themselves that. That's why they're unhappy, by the way, because they're not improving. Right? They're consuming something that they didn't create, and there's such a reward when you're implementing system, especially when people told you you were wrong on something and you're right. A good example of that is like well, I have two, and obviously I have my biases, right? But my newsletter, I had a bunch of people unsubscribe as of late because I'm sending shitloads of email, but I had shitloads of people being interested in what I have to offer, a bunch of leads, a bunch of revenue. And if I would have played it safe and keep it quiet, one article per week, I wouldn't have gotten shit. If I get more clients, I'm getting more data, I'm getting smarter, I'm getting better, I'm getting kinder because my ICP is very specific. I only work with a certain type of people. I can invest in their business later on, and that is just exponential. It creates more content, more insight, more clients. It's a never-ending explosive chain. And I would have missed that if I would have stayed quiet in my place. And I don't know, I'm going to a monastery for or some shit for 2 months, waiting that the market for the market to become better. No, instead pitch, go out there, control your ego, and be attentive. Listen to what others have to say. Listen to what the market has to say. Chat with ChatGPT. Oh, what does this guy mean by that? Oh, he's offended. Okay. Oh, it might be this. It might be that. Make scenarios. Potentially make some conclusions once you have sufficient amount of numbers, and eventually conclude stuff up. Oh, this is not working. I need to pivot. Right. The market is moving fast. You need to change your product offers every now and then, weekly if you're good, daily if you're great. Um, Daily, I'm probably exaggerating daily, but because yeah, it's hard to know what works and what doesn't work when you're adding features on a daily basis. But because yeah, some features can actually reduce your close rate. Sometimes less is more. But data is data, and the brain is this magical tool. If you optimize it, if you biohack your brain, if you give yourself the opportunity to relax and calm that brain of yours, maybe a retreat on a quarterly basis, it solidifies insights magically. And then you understand shit. It's like, oh, I was way too focused on that. Like we get hyper focused, we get into super deep work. We lose the big picture when we do that. So sometimes a break, sometimes a deep meditation, a jacuzzi, a sauna, a very long run, a very long walk. This can bring insights like, okay, I'm realizing that. I'm realizing that I need to go low ticket for them to enter my funnel and then go with the value ladder, right? So stop playing it safe and start pitching people. So that was a pretty long one. Thanks for tuning in. And yeah, it's 8:12 right now. Arian, thank you. Shout out to Arian Mohindra. I didn't check the comments. Arian's a young trainer if you want his service. So you can check out mindandbodymastery.com, I believe. And yeah, hope you guys have a good night. Enjoyed that quick monologue.